Back in 2001, I was 6 years old. I grew up in a remote town in far north Queensland, Australia. I knew this boy a year younger than me called Jason. He was the youngest and only boy out of 4 siblings, while his parents were very much lower-class bogans, aka white trash. On a regular basis, the children were neglected, which could have been a contributing factor in Jason's death. Jason's family were staying at a relative's house on the outskirts of some town near a construction site. When no one was watching him, Jason went to the construction site where an accident occurred, and Jason was crushed to death by a large tire. Back at our primary school, there was Memorial Day held for Jason, and because of my age, I was totally oblivious to what had actually happened and had no concept of death. The main things I remember from that day were parents and teachers crying, the planting of the palm tree, prayers, and the tree getting blessed. A few days later, I was waiting to get picked up from school and I saw Jason walking around the place. There was none of that transparent business. He looked solid and normal. I asked him where he had been, and he looked at me, then ran behind a tree. I looked behind the tree and he was gone. Later he was back again, but further away, walking off somewhere, so I stayed waiting for someone to drive me home. My mother ended up inviting Jason's family to our house. While the sisters and mother were there, Jason kept hanging around them, then disappearing over and over again. My brother kept telling me to stop staring at the family. I said I was looking at Jason, who then poked his head out from behind his mother and poked his tongue out at me. I thought that he was playing, so I chased him and ran around the couch. By the time I got to the other side, he was gone again. This is when things really hit the fan, because I turned to Jason's mother and said, "Where's Jason?" The mother burst into tears. The sisters started swearing at me. My mother scolded me. My sisters looked shocked, and my brother was trying not to laugh at everyone's reaction. The last time I saw Jason, my mother and I were at the shop when Jason's mother was walking past, and Jason was running behind her. Years later, after I graduated from boarding school and I was living away from home, I went back to my hometown and went to my old school. I actually forgot why a random palm tree was growing on the grounds of the year 1 and 2 block until my younger cousin told me it was put there for some dead kid. The palm tree is a dwarf palm tree that grows up near a wash-up sink in the playground. It's a pretty lame place to put it, yet it looks like it's thriving. I must have been around 4 or 5 years old. I don't remember my exact age, but this happened in the first house I lived in as a kid, so definitely around the very early 2000s. Couldn't have been older than 6. I didn't have my own room, so I would sleep with my parents on their bed. One of the reasons we ended up moving was because eventually I needed my own room, and this house only had 2 bedrooms, which was enough for my parents and older sister at the time. In my parents' bed, I used to sleep facing the wall, and I was pretty much cornered in by my mom. There was a little gap made by our bed and the wall. It wasn't big enough for me to roll to and fall down, but still a noticeable gap. I vividly remember one night when I woke up in the middle of the night. I was facing the wall, and I remember feeling like something was about to happen. Just pure dread and nervousness. I lay there just staring at the wall in the gap, scared for my life for whatever reason. My eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness as I lay there. Out of nowhere, a black, furry hand rose out of the gap between the bed and the wall and swayed back and forth like it was waving at me. The best visual representation of what this thing looked like would be the Grinch's hand, only black. It just swayed back and forth like it was saying hello to me, but in a very exaggerated way. It scared me to the core, and I started crying and screaming. My mom woke up, picked me up off the bed, and held me in her arms. Whenever I would cry, she would try and calm me down by walking around the house with me in her arms, showing me things to try and distract me and get me to stop crying. She walked me towards the kitchen and started showing me all the pots, pans, and dishes on the dish rack, whisper-talking to me to try and calm me down. Eventually I did calm down and she carried me back to bed. At this point I was 100% awake and fully aware. She walked to the foot of the bed so we could both get on without disturbing and waking up my dad. As soon as she put me on the bed, I immediately saw the furry hand laying right next to my dad's legs, slightly twitching. My mom was trying to lead me to a spot of the bed, but I didn't want to move because this thing was on the bed and I didn't want to touch it or step on it. She was gently forcing me to walk on the bed, and I made the effort to step over it. I tried to tell my mom that there was something next to my dad, but she was probably more concerned about going back to sleep after having woken her up in the middle of the night. She didn't understand what I was trying to tell her. I just lay there in my spot of the bed, facing away from the wall this time, trying not to move. I must have fallen asleep at some point because that's all I remember from this night. I'm 21 now, and I don't think I'll ever be able to logically explain what that thing was. I know for a fact that I was awake and not dreaming. I'm fully aware of sleep paralysis, and while it does sound like something someone might see during a sleep paralysis episode, it doesn't explain how I saw the thing on the bed when I was coming back into the room. I'm really curious if anyone else has had a similar experience like this, or knows someone that has. There's tons of people who have had paranormal experiences with ghosts and shadow people, but I've never heard of anyone experiencing what I did. So yesterday I moved into my new place, which is pretty old. Online town records show that it was built in 1848. It's massive, 6,000 square feet, across 3 floors and a dungeon for a basement. It's an old New England mansion, originally for one family, then apparently converted into multiple units at one point, then back to one family again. A lot of strange construction work, walled-off doorways, a lot of space between the walls of the rooms. 2 staircases that lead to different sections of the basement, 3 going up to the 2nd floor. There's also another staircase that leads to a single room nestled between the 1st and 2nd floor in the center of the house. I'm staying here alone for a while as a favor for a friend. It's been empty for a while, as said friend seems to have underestimated renovation costs. Tried to paint a picture, now to the spooky. So last night, my first night alone in this maze of doors and stairways, I had my first paranormal experience. I had always been a believer, but never saw or felt anything unusual other than sleep paralysis. I'm on the back porch smoking the last cigarette of the night just after midnight. I come inside into the kitchen, walk over to the bathroom which is connected. Everything is neat, tidy, and in order. I retire to my bedroom, which is actually more like a massive dining room with a small entryway with a fireplace. It's important to note that I didn't go to sleep. I was binging Game of Thrones. At 2:30 a.m., I got up to use the bathroom again. I'm walking down the long hallway, and just before I make the sharp left turn into the kitchen, I hit the light switch and immediately jumped backwards and was washed over with chills, and heart rate jumped straight to 150. Every single cabinet and drawer was fully opened. I stood there for a second, composed myself, and made a pathetic run across the kitchen for the bathroom. Again, just before entering, I hit the lights. Now my heart rate is about 200. The bath is the same as the kitchen. Every drawer and cabinet door and the vanity mirrors, this very large bathroom. Also, I quickly noticed that the shower curtain is shut, concealing the shower. When I know it was fully open last time I was there. An old habit, closed curtain always freaked me out. I left everything as is and just went back to the room rather quickly. I hit the obligatory extra light switches on the way back, and I did not dare to explore in the dark. I sat upright in my bed all night, staring at the doorway, waiting for the sun to rise. While I waited, I enjoyed the sounds of a ceramic mug falling into the sink and bouncing around. Of course, nothing in the morning. Also, odd sounds from the basement directly beneath me, like a metal yard rig dragging on the stone floor, and sounds of things being moved around, but not a sound from the area of the kitchen. I asked my friend a little more about the house today without telling him about my experience. Apparently it had been a very poorly operated sober house for a very long time, and had been shut down earlier in the year. I'm told of a number of overdose deaths over the years, and given the age of the house, who really knows what has happened here? About to begin night 2 alone here. Any similar experiences out there? What should I expect? Should I leave now? Or wait to see if it's lonely and just being playful?
It took us 12 months and 3 days to look for her. Sadly, we never found her. Lucy was my best friend. In the year 2004, she went missing after being to school and never came back home again. Lucy's mother, the school rector, and myself went and reported this to the police, but unfortunately, until today, all the efforts to find Lucy proved abortive. This time, we were both 18 years old. We were freshman students in a college in Arizona. Well, after 1 year, I was inside my room in the school hostel to do my school assignments. All my roommates have left to attend classes, so I was the only one in the hostel room. So I opened Google to search for how to reduce human psychological stress, as I was a student of psychology in college. Surprisingly, a new window popped up and it said, "Get access to all the information you need right here." I was so happy, thinking that this isn't going to be stressful at all. I'm going to have all the necessary information I need to do my assignment. After this, another page came up saying, "Click here for final access." So I clicked. Then a website page came up. This page seemed very strange to me, as it had a lot of information about people who go missing every year around the world. I was shocked, but at the same time, I was really happy that I could find useful information regarding my friend Lucy. As I was exploring and digging deeper, I came across some links which took me even deeper. The links were really hard to find on the website. The URL was not blue to let you know that it was a link and would take you to another website, but it caught my attention as the paragraph's font was much smaller than the other paragraphs and it was surrounded with pictures. I copied and pasted the link into a new page, and it came up with a login page. The user ID, your name, and the password, your date of birth. It was strange and I was really confused by this, but I also really wanted to know what it was. So I entered my details. After a while, I got access to the site. It took ages to load, but it had this sign at the top saying, "Login successful." So I knew I was going to see something I probably didn't want to see. And then it happened. All the countries around came up, and then I clicked on America, and I really wish I'd never clicked. But I really, more so, wanted to know if I could find information about my friend Lucy. It came up with those people's names who had just disappeared but were captured, and thousands of videos. It was horrific and disturbing, highly graphic, as the hands and legs were cut off before killing them. I couldn't help but think of all the parents of these people who didn't know what happened to their kids. Oh, it was heart-wrenching. I kept on scrolling and scrolling, and as I scrolled, I came across free access to a video of the execution of people who've gone missing. Before I knew it, I was shocked and shaking in fear as I watched the video clip of how my friend was killed. Her trout was cut and hung up till death. I was so afraid I was crying for her. I clicked the back button to leave the page, but a small red alert window popped up in the right, in the corner of the window, and it said, "Mia, you are next." I was shivering in panic, so I shut down the system. I immediately called the police to report this. Unfortunately, there's no way I could tell Lucy's mom about this. How would she feel seeing the video of her daughter getting killed miserably? A few weeks later, I got a response from the police informing me that this website has since been shut down.
When I was younger, my friends and I would use the Ouija board to fool around and play with. We started getting cold spots. We decided to see what would happen if we put something in them. We put a lit candle in them. The candle blew sideways. Knowing now this probably wasn't a fake, I decided to ask it a question to confirm it was indeed true. What was the name of the cruise ship I went on when I was 8? I was shocked to find out that it actually knew the name. But this is when it begins to get scary. We were asking the board how long we had to live. My friends got 50 or 60 plus years of life to live. I went up to the board and asked it the same question. It said 10. I asked if it meant 10 years. It said 10 days. At this point, I shit a brick and turned as white as a ghost. We proceeded to ask the spirit how I was going to die. It said I was going to be killed in a car crash by a girl named Emma. We ended the session and I went home. I was really scared. I wanted to see if it was a one-time thing, so I decided to go back to my friend's house 3 days later. I drove to my friend's house and we set up the board. We asked the same question. This time, it said I had 7 days left. This made me even more frightened, and I decided to check it out again 2 days later. We used the boat again. It said I had 5 days left. I go home. I begin carrying a Bible and a huge cross with me everywhere I go. I was so afraid I would die. That was something I didn't want to happen. I was way too young. Because of that fear, I decided I should tell my dad about what happened. At first, he didn't believe me. I went on and on, but he thought it was a ploy for me to get out of school. I began desperately thinking of ways to prove what I was saying was true. I made a homemade Ouija board out of a piece of paper and a CD. It worked, and my dad was creeped out. He said I didn't have to go to school the day I was supposed to die. I didn't go to school that day. Nothing happened. That board saved my life. Without it, I may be telling this story from a Ouija board right now. A day later, I had heard of a teenager who died in a car crash right outside my house. Her name was Emma.
This time, it was summer vacation when I was home alone surfing the internet and reading about random topics in online forums. I came across a post where a lady narrated her encounters on the dark web, and she warned people not to access it. After reading this, I was damn curious about the actual deal, about this dark web or deep web stuff that people always make it unnecessarily fearful. So, I watched a couple of tutorial videos on YouTube on how to access the dark web using an Android phone because I was planning to surf the dark web using my phone. Actually, I didn't really know what I was up to, but I was way too curious and excited to do this. I covered both the rear and front camera of my phone with tape and went inside my room and locked it. It was around 11 p.m. in the night. I started searching different websites, and there I came across my first deep web. It says, "Do not access this. Your phone may be shut down." I was too confident to listen to this, so I proceeded by clicking. Now, I was taken to a page that I will probably call a confession page. What I saw was too shocking for me to trust my fellow human being again. The first video was a graphic video of a man holding a knife stained with blood, and he was laughing. This man was talking about how he killed his wife and 2 kids. Sounds weird, right? I can't believe this. This totally looked like a movie, but it's not. It was too creepy. I became nervous to read the comments under it. Comments like, "You're the best for killing them. No love in life. I'm gonna kill my son one day just like this." I was terrified. Many people are mentally ill in this life, believe me. So, I had enough of all this, but still, I wasn't done. I wanted to see as much as I could. These websites are linking from one to another. So the next thing that happened was that I was redirected to a page where they're selling things made out of human skin and some organs. Damn, they were costly. It made me almost puke out everything inside my stomach. This life is evil, I thought to myself. So I tried to close the sites, but I found it was so difficult because many windows kept opening. Again and again, I was redirected to a web page where they were selling guns, drugs, and many other illegal things. Now, I was tired of it all, so I decided to switch off my phone. After 2 minutes, I switched it on to close every browse tab and delete all the browsing apps that were automatically installed while accessing the deep web and sleeping while listening to my favorite songs. I wasn't able to sleep very well that night. Everything felt so horrible and ugly. That same night, I dreamed how a man called me on the phone that I was kidnapped to an unknown place. In this dream, I was tied up and tortured with a belt. After 5 minutes, I suddenly came back to life. It was a horrible and the scariest night for me, but after 4 to 5 days, things went back to normal. I was able to use WhatsApp to text my friends, and then I got this notification pop up on my phone. Someone texted me on WhatsApp. It was an unknown number, an international number that I have no idea of its country code. Although I was scared, I opened the text without thinking much, and I saw this creepy text. "Why are you not replying to me?" I got a little nervous as I don't have any friends from abroad, and maybe it was a scam, so I ignored it. The next day, I got another text from that same number saying, "Hey, you can't ignore me. I'm still here. I will get you very soon." At this point, I was now damn sure that things got out of hand, and I almost believed that I was going to die. I quickly blocked the number and told my close friends when we met in the club about what happened to me on the dark web. One of my friends, Lamb, said that the same thing happened to him last year after he surfed the dark web. Lamb said that he blocked the numbers, but soon started getting creepy, deadly calls. So he changed his number, and life was good again. So now, here I am, a messed up and clueless teenager. I was out of breath. I was afraid to tell my mom or dad, but I tried to control myself. Following this, I still got another text on WhatsApp from another unknown international number saying, "So, you think you blocked me? You can't run anywhere. I will catch up with you." Now, it was obvious that someone had extracted my phone number through hacking when I visited the dark web. I quickly blocked that number and reported it and deleted WhatsApp, deactivated all my social media accounts. After a week, everything went back to normal. I changed my SIM card and now open new social media accounts. Nothing happened, and I promised and swore to God and myself that I will never go back to surf the dark web again. Curiosity can kill faster than you think. I was terrified and frustrated. Offer me money to surf the dark web? Hell no.
Our company was made to make house calls to customers who had problems with their computers. My job was mainly dealing with people who I swore didn't know the simplest thing about computers. Regardless, it was my job to inspect and fix the issue. That night, I had a huge list of people waiting to get their computers repaired. The next on the list was a business that couldn't bring their computers online. I was requested by the owner to come check it out as soon as possible. I got in my car and headed to his place. Since it was a business, I figured there may be something wrong with a network cable, or someone installed a Trojan horse by accident. I finished the drive there and entered the building. When I reached the building, the owner directed me to a computer. He said it wouldn't get online. He then continued to rant about how Microsoft Windows is horrible and other things until I pulled out my laptop to see what the problem was. I tried accessing Google on the computer. It said the URL was invalid. Since I know Google was a real site, there must be something wrong with the computer's connection. I checked the connection settings. I face-palmed at the fact that the computer was not connected to any Wi-Fi. All of the networks were locked with WEP security, so I asked the man to look for the passcode. He took a long time, so I decided to toy around on my laptop for a bit. All of a sudden, a network appeared that had no security. Me, stricken with the agony of boredom, logged on to the network. I started going on the web, looking at articles and files when my computer began to freeze a bit. I found this strange. My laptop never froze before. As time progressed, it froze more and more frequently with longer durations each time. Eventually, the browser crashed. As I was about to reboot my computer, a new browser started up, with a chat box in the middle. A random user logged on. He began typing. "This is your last warning. Leave this network now." At the time, I thought it was just a program built into this network to keep hackers away, so I paid no attention to it. It began typing again. "This is your final warning. Leave now." At this point, I'm quite impressed with the program. After all, it was well made. I could hardly tell it was a program. It wrote again. "Leave now, or else." I still don't know why I did this, but I decided to taunt it. I replied to it. "Or what?" The user typed, "I will make your life hell." I laughed it off. Now this program really had my respect. It was very entertaining. "This is good security," I wrote in the box. "I warned you," the man wrote. He then proceeded to write my name. This is when I began to get scared. I didn't tell him my name. "How do you know my name?" Instead of answering my question, He proceeded to name my personal information, my address, credit cards, phone number, social media account. These were all correct. Shocked, out of my mind, I sat there in complete silence. Eventually the man typed again. Since you refuse to leave, you will see hell. The chat box disappeared. At this point, I'm rapidly pushing the disconnect button. It's not responding. The option to exit the browser and power off my computer are also disabled. As I look on the screen, I am filled with utter terror. I saw things humans shouldn't see. Murder, demonic sacrifice, rape, innocent babies being killed, and more. At the end of the video, I vomit. I couldn't take any more of this. The chat box reappears. Leave while you still can, he wrote. I quickly shut off my computer and disconnect from the network. I don't tell the owner about this, as it would just make things worse. The owner came back and got connected to the wireless network. I rushed out of there as soon as possible. I'm lucky I didn't hear anything of it since.